Public narratives often simplify Christian Horner's downfall, scandal, conflict, dismissal. But when you examine the full set of facts, the story becomes far more precise. Horner didn't fall because of personal allegations. He fell because his grip on Red Bull's internal power structure had weakened. And in Formula One, losing control from the inside is usually the beginning of the end. After 20 years in charge, Horner was used to having the final say. But post-2022, the balance of power shifted. Political backing eroded, key figures began to leave, and on-track performance no longer masked the tension behind the scenes. When Helmut Marko publicly suggested that Red Bull would have recovered sooner had Horner been removed earlier, the message was unmistakable. Horner was no longer seen as the solution, but as part of the problem. That statement matters. It came from someone who helped build Red Bull from the start. It wasn't a casual opinion. It was a public justification for the dismissal, and that moment appears to be the real turning point. Horner didn't respond publicly, but he didn't accept the narrative either. Instead, he stepped away from the paddock, only to re-emerge with rumors that are far more deliberate. Alpine equity and full control. This isn't an emotional comeback. It's a calculated one. With ownership, Horner cannot be removed through internal politics in the way he was before. And if Alpine becomes his platform, the message is clear. Horner wants to prove that his downfall at Red Bull was not a failure of leadership, but a failure of the system that pushed him out. If you want to understand where this story is really heading, make sure you subscribe now, and let's get into the full analysis. To understand why this matters so much to Horner, you have to separate the scandal from the mechanism of his removal. In 2024, Horner was investigated twice over allegations of inappropriate behavior towards a female employee. Both investigations cleared him. No wrongdoing was found. Red Bull did not remove him then, and, crucially, could not justify removing him on those grounds alone. What changed was everything around it. Performance began to slide from mid-2024 onwards. Red Bull lost its aura of inevitability. The RB21 in 2025 was increasingly described as narrow, windowed, and difficult to extract performance from. Max Verstappen still delivered, but not with the same dominance. The constructor's position deteriorated, and internally, confidence in the direction of the team eroded. At the same time, Red Bull experienced a significant exodus of senior personnel. Adrian Newey departed for Aston Martin. Jonathan Wheatley left for Sauber Audi. Will Courtney moved to McLaren. Each departure on its own was survivable. Together, they told a story of a team no longer unified around its leadership. Horner insisted publicly that Red Bull had strength and depth, but Formula One paddocks read between the lines. When senior figures leave simultaneously, it is rarely coincidence. It is usually a response to instability at the top. This is where the power struggle becomes central. After the death of Dietrich Mateschitz in 2022, the internal equilibrium of Red Bull Racing shifted. Helmut Marko later explained that although Horner was team principal, ultimate authority always sat in Austria. Marko described how Horner, backed by Thai shareholder Chellerm Uvidya, attempted to consolidate control after Mateschitz's passing. Marko was explicit. He said that Horner did everything he could to take control of the company and that the Austrian side resisted. This wasn't personal, Marko insisted, but structural. Yet the consequence was unavoidable. Horner's position became politically exposed. When results dipped, that exposure became fatal. Red Bull did not need a scandal to justify change. It needed a moment when Horner could be framed as a risk rather than an asset. And that moment arrived in mid-2025. The most telling evidence came after the fact. Helmut Marko stated publicly that Max Verstappen would have been world champion had Horner been dismissed earlier. That is an extraordinary thing for a senior Red Bull figure to say. It reframes the entire season. It implies that Horner's continued presence delayed recovery. Marko didn't say Horner was incompetent. He said Horner was obstructive. And in F1 politics, that distinction is everything. Red Bull replaced Horner with Laurent Mekies, and although the change was not immediately transformational, Verstappen mounted a late resurgence and finished just 2 points behind Lando Norris in the championship. That sequence of events strengthened the internal belief that the decision had been justified. For Horner, this was the most damaging outcome of all, not the dismissal itself, but the narrative that followed it. The idea that Red Bull improved because he left? For Horner, this was the most damaging outcome of all. Not the departure itself, but the narrative that followed it. The idea that Red Bull improved after he left. This is why the Alpine rumors matter. Horner is not positioning himself for a conventional return to Formula One. He has reportedly declined opportunities where he would operate within an existing hierarchy. Aston Martin was considered and ruled out. Ferrari was never a natural fit. Horner does not appear interested in a role where strategic control is limited. Alpine, by contrast, presents a different kind of opportunity. Renault retains majority ownership of the team, while 24% is held by Otro Capital, an American investment group that includes well-known figures such as Anthony Joshua, Rory McIlroy, Ryan Reynolds, and others. That stake, acquired in 2023 for approximately 200 million euros, is now widely reported to be available. Multiple reports suggest that Horner, supported by a group of investors, is exploring the possibility of acquiring that share. The objective is not symbolic ownership. It is influence. Ownership would allow Horner to operate as an owner principal, similar in structure to Toto Wolff's role at Mercedes. When asked by The Telegraph about discussions with Alpine, Horner did not deny them, choosing instead not to comment further. Alpine responded in the same way. In Formula One, that type of silence is often meaningful. The situation at Alpine provides important context. The team finished last in the 2025 Constructors' Championship with just 22 points. Renault has closed its Viry engine program and will switch to Mercedes power units from 2026 onward. Leadership changes have been frequent, and long-term stability has been difficult to establish. Flavio Briatore, now serving as executive advisor at Alpine, has a long professional history with Horner. Their relationship is well known within the paddock. Briatore has been advocating for structural change, and at his stage of career, is unlikely to pursue a long-term operational role without a strong partner in place. For Horner, Alpine represents something very specific: a team in need of direction, a fresh regulation cycle, a reset in power units, and a governance structure that could be reshaped. This is not about nostalgia. It is not about visibility. It is about restoring professional standing. Comments from within Red Bull following Horner's exit helped define the public narrative around his departure. Alpine offers the chance to challenge that interpretation. If Horner succeeds there, the story shifts. His exit from Red Bull can be seen as structural rather than performance-related. The focus moves from individual leadership to organizational dynamics. However, the risks are clear. Alpine is not the Red Bull of the early 2000s. Formula One today is more regulated, more competitive, and less forgiving. Mercedes power units remove one uncertainty, but they do not guarantee success. Ownership brings authority, but it also brings responsibility. There is also the question of leadership chemistry. Briatore's management style is well known. Horner's approach is clearly defined. Together, they could provide stability, or they could introduce new challenges. What is certain is that this would not be a quiet return.